The DC room is packed with comics. Now let's unpack with some comic book news.
Just a second while I retrieve my beanie, my hair, my tweezers, and my nuts.
DC Comic Book News, Episode 79. Grasshoppers, Lawn Leapers, and Sod Skippers.
Hey folks, how you doing? Comic Book Man here. Welcome once again to my video outhouse. Time for Boat!
DC News number 79.
This is the big one, folks. This is the big
Massive!
one. The one you've heard of before we get to it. Before we get to it.
Massive!
Before we get to it.
Yes?
We're coming to you from Alternate Reality, which is located at the intersection of 111th and Kedzie in beautiful downtown Montgomery Wood. Alternate Reality. We're all new comics, including all DC comics, including all Flashpoint comics, including all these goddamn number ones are always 15% off every day for everyone. I don't know if you've heard, but DC has made some news over the last couple of days.
Today, you don't have a clue. If you've been on the internet exploded.
DC's made some news over the last couple of days. The DC Universe is essentially being canceled right after Flashpoint 5 and restarted with brand new number ones in a brand new universe and a brand new everything.
Emerged.
The following week.
No.
Flashpoint 5 comes out. Flashpoint 5 and Justice League number 1 will be the only two books that DC ships that week, and then the following week, it all begins. Bo's here with the lowdown on all this stuff that's going to help put me out of business and give me a tin cup to sit on the street and beg for change from people to keep a roof over my head. So, Bo, please elucidate everybody on what's going on.
Once Flashpoint number 5 is over with, you're going to have 52 brand new number ones. You'll have Jeff Johns and Jim Lee working on the Justice League, yes. And apparently Lee says he's been working on the book for a while, so they'll be making the deadline.
So they're at least up to issue 3.
And they're also going to start, from that point on, day and date digital distribution.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So once it's on the racks, you can get it online.
Yeah, same day I have it on the racks, you can also buy it online. But the difference is you can buy it online, but it's going to be a computer copy of the book. You're not going to be able to hold it in your hand. It won't be a hard copy.
I don't think you can print those either.
And you can't print those either, but you can get them online the same day you can get them from me. If you want a copy to hold in your hand, you come down here. If you just want to read the story, you can do it online.
Yeah, if you
just so you know, if you buy it online, you're putting a bullet in my head. So please, let your conscience be your guide. Now, thank you, DC.
Does that make the readership akin to Lee Harvey Oswald in a way?
Yes.
Yeah, magic bullet time.
Yes, it does.
Back and to the left.
Okay, like
back and to the left.
August 31st, Flashpoint number 5 and Justice League number 1. Now, of these 52 series, here's the rundown. So, if you don't have to write all
Cinch
this
up your nuts, because here it comes.
Because it's going to go on the website, and all this stuff will be on the website and more details. Almanac number 1, Dan DiDio, Keith Giffen. A new Legion of Superheroes series called Legion Lost, which has nothing to do with the previous Legion Lost series. Superman number 1, which might be written by Grant Morrison. Action Comics number 1, which might be drawn by Rags Morales. Batman number 1, Cable's Dwayne Szarski and Greg Capullo. Flash number 1 from Brian Bucatello and Francis Manapul. That's right, the artist team from the previous Flash series are now writing and drawing the book, and Manapul and Bucatello say the book will be shipping on time. Well, they've been working on it. Green Arrow number 1, J.T. Kroll and Dan Jurgens. Nightwing number 1, creators unknown. Justice League International from Dan Jurgens and Aaron Lopresti with a roster of Batman, Rocket Red, Guy Gardner, Booster Gold, Vixen, Donna Troy, Fire and Ice, and some guy with scales that I don't even remember. Mr. Terrific number 1, Eric Wallace and Roger Robinson. Captain Atom number 1, J.T. Kroll and Freddie Williams II. Birds of Prey number 1, no Gail Simone, kids.
What?
She's not working on that book anymore. She's been moved on to something else.
Who's working on it?
They won't know. They haven't announced it. Okay. Teen Titans number 1, Scott Lobdell used to write X-Men and Brett Booth. Justice Society of America number 1, Mark Guggenheim has been shown the door. He's not writing that book anymore. So everything he's done the last couple months doesn't mean a damn thing.
Well, nothing anybody's done over the last 20 years means a damn thing, because they're changing everything.
Wonder Woman number 1, Brian Azzarello and Chif Chiang. It is completely ignoring everything that Straczynski's done over the last year. Green Lantern number 1, Jeff Johns, Doug Mankey, Kristen Almy. Green Lantern Corps number 1, still written by Peter J. Tomasi, with art by Fernando Pasadena and Scott Hanna. Guy Gardner and John Stewart will be basically running a Green Lantern strike force in that series.
Didn't you tell me that the Green Lantern books are essentially not going to be touched by any of this?
The Green Lantern books will not be affected at all. Everything that's been going on in the Green Lantern books is exactly the same.
Yeah.
You can have a book called Green Lantern, The New Guardians number 1 from Tony Bedard and Tyler Kirkham with bat handling art. It's Kyle Rayner leading a team of Lanterns all from all around the color spectrum. All around. Red Lanterns #1. Yes, Peter Milligan. We already knew he was working on that one, but finally we know that Ed Bennis and Rob Hunter are drawing the damn thing, which is something that DC's been keeping quiet, but now they basically said what it is. Hawkman #1, written
Savage
by Tony...
Hawkman. Savage Hawkman.
No, it just says Hawkman #1. There's no Savage in the title.
Well, online it said Savage the other day.
Written by Tony Daniel, not James Robinson, who everyone assumed, because he is working on something Hawkman related, and drawn by the Outsiders' Philip Tan. Batgirl #1, Barbara Gordon is going to be walking around and wearing the costume, boys and girls. Her legs have gotten so much better.
Where are my legs?
They're better. DC Universe presents #1, an anthology book starring Deadman and a number of DCU heroes. The Deadman story in the first issue will be written by Paul Jenkins, who apparently is no longer a Marvel exclusive, and drawn by Bernard Chang. The Fury of Firestorm #1, written by Ethan Van Sciver and Gail Simone. There's Gail Simone working on
Written
stuff.
by Ethan Van Sciver.
Both of them are writing it. That's the project.
Who's drawing it?
Yildiray Cinar.
Who?
He's the guy drawing the Legion book.
Oh.
That book was at one point going to be written by Atomic Robo's Brian Clevenger. Apparently, DC, when they got all these teams together, they did some auditions, and Clevenger was told, sorry, you didn't make the cut. Grifter #1, one of many new Wildstorm books that are coming back.
That's a Wildstorm book. I thought Wildstorm was dead.
Wildstorm is not dead. Grifter's coming back, and according to Rich Johnson from Bleeding Cool, they're having a hard time finding a writer for this book because 2 writers have already told DC, go to hell, we're not working on it.
Yeah, they're having a hard time finding a writer on the book. It's a stupid
It
character.
starts in September.
It's a stupid character.
And My Greatest Adventure #1, which will finish the story started in Weird World, so there'll be 2 new anthology books. There are also a couple other books that DC has not announced yet. Now, certain books will not be affected by any changes, such as David Finch's Dark Knight. Nothing changes there. The story he starts, the story he finishes, there will be no differences. Now, Bob Wayne, the VP for sales for DC, says this isn't a reboot, but after Flashpoint #5 ships, you'll understand why. But it sounds like stuff that happens in the regular DC universe is going on right now, and stuff that happens in Flashpoint #5, they'll all be merged into one big happy family.
We have a question. We have a question.
Yes,
from
what's
the
your question, JR? What's your question, JR?
Oh, what happens to Action, which is just one over
#1.
900, and Detective, which is
#1.
and what?
What apparently DC hasn't made an official announcement on it, but they're saying that if they wanted to do a Action, what is it, 900?
Well, they've done 900 already.
If they wanted to do a
I think
Detective
1,000 would be
900,
coming. Detective
then that
900
would be, let's say that would be the 9th or 10th issue of the new Batman title, and they would just basically say, oh, this is that.
Well, Marvel does that. Marvel does that all the time.
No, it would be a renumbering just for that
They
specific.
do it with anniversary stuff
Right.
too all the time.
Can I make a prediction?
Sure.
Within a year of this whole thing starting, the reset button will be pushed and everything will go back to status quo.
My attitude towards this is DC in their back pocket, Jeff Johns and whoever else in their back
Jeff
pocket.
Johns, Dan DiDio,
They
and
have
Jim
they have a 1-year escape clause with this thing. At some point, if this thing tanks, they've written the story to get themselves out of this thing, which they may not ever use, or they may use 2 years down the road,
The problem-
or 3 years down the road.
The problem with that is if this thing tanks, then all 3 of them will no longer be working for DC. Because people at Warner's not going to let them make. Hi, you guys screwed everything up. You can stay and work
They
for
may not
us.
be working for DC, but Jeff Johns is pretty heavily vested in the movie side of things right now.
So
he'll be
Johns
working for
would probably
Warner's.
be working for Warner's, but
Yeah,
not DC.
working for
Jim and Dan DiDio would just find something else.
It put him back in the music industry where he came from in the first place.
Animation. Stuff.
You don't listen to anything there for Supergirl or Superboy or any of that stuff.
Superboy, as far as I know, doesn't exist. Brian Wood was supposed to be writing
The
Supergirl.
Superboy's being canceled?
Superboy, none of these books exist anymore. Well, actually, Jeff Lemire says that he's writing something.
I thought
he's
Jeff
still writing-
Lemire was doing a good job on that
He's
book.
doing
It
a
was
good
selling
job,
okay.
but he said he's doing something Superboy related, so there's a possibility that he's not doing a book called Superboy. Brian Wood from DMZ supposedly was working on Supergirl. That was a rumor that had been popping up about a while ago.
Yeah.
He's not working on it, so if there's a Supergirl book, DC hasn't announced him yet.
Now,
Now,
what about Superman Batman?
Superman starts over with '1.
Well, yeah,
Batman
no,
starts
the
with
Superman, the world's finest book.
I believe that book won't exist either. But what's really weird about this is that DC has to announce all these issues on June the 13th because that's when the solicitations pop up online.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books that they haven't announced yet. Now, Bleeding Cool's Rich Johnson, he's been basically walking around and talking to everyone that he can think of about coming up with stuff because DC signed an agreement saying they can't talk about this stuff.
Right.
But Johnson's able to find out stuff anyway. So a lot of these titles DC hasn't revealed anything about. Joss has been telling us who the creative teams are. So, and supposedly like Superman, I think George Perez may have something to do with Superman too. But DC's kind of keeping everything close to the vest. This was supposed to be announced on the 10th or 11th at the Hero Complex Con in Los Angeles.
Right.
John Zallie was supposed to make this big announcement. Now they'll be there and they'll have nothing to announce because USA Today said we don't run the story. They ran the story, and so they'll be standing there going, "Hi, yeah, we're just here. How you
No,
doing?"
there'll be questions. Don't worry.
Oh, there'll be lots of
There'll be
questions.
many
Don't worry about
questions.
that.
There'll be lots of questions, but see, they won't say anything because the solicitations won't come out until that Monday, and they're making their appearance at this convention on Saturday.
Okay, unless I'm greatly mistaken, what's happened with all this is Dan DiDio was put in charge of DC Comics. How many years ago? 5 years ago?
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. He's put in charge of DC Comics 4 or 5 years ago. He was brought down to DC from the higher ups at Warner's, and Paul Levitz was shown the door essentially because DiDio took his place, and he was told to give sales a kick in the ass. It's time for DC to start making some money, and he gave him X number of years. This plan is like the smacks of being the tail end of clock's ticking. You're just about done. It's time to pull the ultimate gambit.
Well, supposedly-
okay, and to give sales a kick in the ass.
Well, supposedly-
beyond this, I don't know what the hell they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as giving sales a kick in the
supposedly
ass.
when J. Michael Straczynski and Dan DiDio sat together and he decided to write Superman for the year, DiDio was talking to him about this then.
Yeah.
So this is something they've been working on for years. That's why some of these books are going to ship on time because they've been working on these books for damn near a year already.
And the problem I have is if that is the case and this tanks, at what point does DC wind up in trouble financially with Warner's, and at what point does Warner's say we need to take another look at this whole comic book publishing thing?
I don't think
because if Warner sent him down to give the place a kick in the butt financially, and it doesn't pay off, I'm not sure what else they can do. So Warner's has got to have some sort of backdoor plan for this.
I don't think DC's looked upon by the Warner's hires up as something that we have to make money with in the first place. That's probably
Why
the
send
ma-
DiDio down in the first place?
It's probably
Why
one of the
send him
main
down?
reasons why they're doing the print comics day and date digital distribution. Basically, they're jumping headlong into the day and date thing.
Yeah.
And you get the book online. You can buy combo packs. A month after this is over with, you can get the same book for $1.99. You can read it on your iPad. Well, you can't. Remember, the point is, you can't.
They
hold
haven't
it.
read it on the internet.
But you
yet.
can't hold the book. And
No.
so, I mean, the number of people who pick up stuff digital day and date, those are people who end up wandering into stores 9 times out of 10 picking up comics anyway. Because you can't hold them.
As far as I'm concerned, what this whole thing is going to come down to is, do you need this? Do you need this? If you can live without this, and if going online to get your comics is something you can live with, this will disappear. So will this. Because the bread and butter of any comic book store is comic books. If you can live without having this in your life, that's the end of comics, and that's the end of the comic book store. So in a lot of ways, it's up to you. What am I going to do? I don't know. I mean, I can't sit around fretting about this. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's sort of like the thing. Hey, did you hear the comet's going to hit the Earth in 3 weeks? What are you going to do? I don't know. What the hell else can I do? What am I supposed to do? If it happens, it happens. If it happens, it happens. But it's up to you folks. Can you live with not having a comic book in your hands?
Yeah. Now
And I can't answer that question. Only you can.
Since this announcement has been made, people have sort of been waiting for Marvel to comment on this thing. Marvel's had nothing to say about
Oh,
this.
you said Marvel. Folks at
No,
Marvel
no,
said all
no,
sorts
no.
of stuff.
Brian Bendis posted on Twitter that this is screwing the direct market. No one, and Tom Brevoort does that weekly thing for Comic Book Resources. It was never even asked.
Yeah.
So this is something they're going to talk about. Will they go day and date distribution as well? If DC's going to do it whole hog and it works, then they're going to end up doing it too.
Yeah, and the other side of that, the other shoe that could drop from that is a lot of people are saying, well, what this will do, and this is going back to trade paperbacks and borders and everything else, but what this will do will get comics in more people's hands, and people might want to rush out and actually buy the comic, which may of course happen. I don't know. Again, it's people ask me that. Well, what are you going to do if? I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't know. It's not in my hands. There's nothing I can do except buy the comics and have them here on the rack and hope somebody shows up.
True.
And that's it.
So
On that happy note, on that happy note, we're done. We're finished. We're out of here.
Well,
I'm,
you will
I'm
say-
going to go price razor blades.
But you will say one thing. This is like the most major league mainstream coverage DC's received ever.
Well, no. I mean, who'd they kill recently or something? I mean, they were in the news for something because they killed somebody or something. I don't know.
Well, the last time, I mean, you had the Death of Superman thing, but this was covered. But I mean,
Well, that's going way
but
back.
I mean, if you picked up, like I said, if you walked by a USA Today machine, you had this big picture of that Justice League cover, that was on the front of the paper. If you went to the life section, that was the top story. If you went 3 pages in, that was the story. That's basically 3 mentions in a mainstream newspaper.
Yeah.
That's a huge mainstream thing, and that's one of the other reasons that they wanted DiDio and them to do this, so that people would mention stuff mainstream.
Yeah.
Because DC's always had this problem dealing with the regular world as far as getting press to cover them.
Well, what I mentioned before about Dan DiDio being sent down from, I think it was the music department.
Oh no, he was an animator. He was doing animation.
I thought he was in music.
No, he was doing animation.
They sent him down to DC for the comic books end of things. The plan has also been to get DC's characters out there more in mainstream media. Not just on like Cartoon Network or movies, but also in stuff like USA Today. That's also been part of the plan. Also, is to up DC's IQ quotient. Visibility quotient.
It's just called Q.
Q quotient to up DC's Q quotient as far as the general public goes, and that's been part of the plan also with this all along. Some of which, like the Green Lantern movie that's coming out. Yeah. The Green Lantern movie coming out was the first big step with that. That movie was written by.
Well, that movie actually is written by Mark Guggenheim, Michael Green. Basically,
Jeff Johns has got his finger in it though too.
Jeff Johns was basically there to read the scripts, but that movie's written by 3 comic book writers.
Yeah. So there's this synergy that's been going on at DC, which is just starting to come to the fore right now, as we sit here. And a year from now, who knows where we're going to be. Okay. And as I was saying before, that's it. We're done. We're finished. We're out of here. We've got no more DC news, but you can go to the source.
Wasn't that enough? My God!
And check out all of
Look
DC
at the
news.
size of this page!
This guy goes the fourth wall again. And this guy sends me that I post up. And where's the store's website at? JR, where is it?
I don't know, but I'm going to go ask Sarah. I'll be back.
www.myalternatereality.com. Needs more Harry Potter.
So go to the store's website and check out all of the DC news that Bo sends me that I post up. Till next time, this is Comic Book Man.
This is Nightwing.
This is Nightwing. Saying, I don't know.
Buffalo Wing.
He's got his head up his ass. This is Nightwing with his head up his ass. Saying, bye!
The Video Outhouse is brought to you by some of the finest people willing to work for free. This is a list of some of them.